Welcome to this episode of the TelePT Connections Podcast. Our guest this week is Katie Ford, direct from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Katie is a strength coach with over 6 years of experience, and she's also wrapping up her second year in the University of Oklahoma's Doctorate of Physical Therapy program. She's been working as a coach entirely online for the past 2 years and has been tweaking her current practice to prepare to offer cash-based telehealth PT services next year. In addition, Katie is opening a business incubator in Tulsa next month for other clinicians and coaches in her area that are interested in entrepreneurship and need a safe space to work on their side gig. When I asked Katie if there's anything she didn't want us to get into on the podcast, she told me, nope, I'm very much an open book and pathologically friendly. I'm from New York, so that's a little foreign to me, but it definitely makes for an entertaining podcast. Katie is smart and creative, and she's innovating in our space before she's even a licensed PT. She also has great energy, so this was a lot of fun. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the TelePT Connection Podcast. Physical therapy information, innovation, and insights for patients and providers. Physical therapists and innovators Dan Seidler and Adrian Miranda will help you connect with your neuromusculoskeletal system, discussing how to care for every physical ailment they've ever seen or heard of, the latest digital health technology, and other fun stuff from their PT toolbox. Great guests, 21st century home remedies, exercise thumbs up or thumbs down. Now, here are your hosts, Dan and Adrian.
And we are on the air. So, Katie, good to see you today. And Adrian, welcome also. Hi, Katie. Katie Ford, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Cool. You picked your kids up. We were just kind of chatting about this. You picked your kids up at school today. How old are they?
They are 11 and 15, although the 15-year-old is my stepson, so he's with his mom right now. But this was their first day back in school in 15 months.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that background to the whole story. Yeah, it's a big deal, right? We're barely doing that here. And is the 15-year-old learning to drive?
He will be soon. So he'll be, he's actually turning 15 in a couple weeks. And so we have a few more months, and then he's driving with his dad in the country and stuff like that, but he doesn't officially get his permit until October.
Yeah. Adrian, do you have a driver's license?
Since I was 17.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Permits in 16.
My daughter's 17. She has almost no interest in learning how to drive. Not sure if that's good or bad. I don't know.
I mean, for me, it was like I was hoping to get out of the city. So I was like, I need to learn how to drive. And the sooner I learn, the sooner I can get out. So it was kind of a different, motivation.
I visited Brooklyn recently, and my thought was, I'm never freaking going to drive here. This is horrible. So I'm with your daughter.
Yeah, I get it. It's not like wide open roads. It can be really stressful if you don't know what you're doing. So yeah, all right. I'm letting it go for now. My son, on the other hand, he's 15 and he can't wait. So that's the flip side of that. So Katie, I know a little bit about your background. I know you're a strength coach. Are you a personal trainer as well, or do you call yourself a personal trainer, or strictly a strength coach?
I prefer the term strength coach just because personal trainer is a pretty unregulated industry that has some negative connotations. I was just on a Reddit thread where people were talking about how much they hate personal trainers in the physical therapy subreddit. So I try to kind of stay away from that a little bit. But yeah, I do both.
Okay. In New York, actually, my beef here is that personal trainers sometimes use the term PT, and I have nothing against personal trainers or athletic trainers in particular, who have certifications and they're very good at what they do. I just want ownership of PT. And in New York, you're not allowed to use PT unless you're a physical therapist. I don't know if that's a nationwide thing or not.
I believe so.
Yeah. So how did you get started as a strength coach, or just in strength and conditioning?
I was working for a sports chiropractor, and I had no idea what I was doing with my life. I was a single mom, and I was just trying to figure it out. And I kind of got interested in exercising, and I got interested in rehab, and I decided to go to physical therapy school, but I didn't have a bachelor's degree. And so I was like, well, like I've been teaching rehab exercises here at this chiropractor's office, which I was completely unqualified to do and just faked my way into that job. And so
True confessions here.
Yeah,
I appreciate
I
this show airs at midnight.
I started working on my bachelor's degree and I personal trained in the evenings. And I've just been doing that ever since, all the way through PT school.
Okay, so PT school was sort of the impetus for all this. How and why? Why did you decide to go to PT school? Why did you want to be a PT? I know you're working for a chiropractor.
Right. Well, first of all, there's no chiropractic schools in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And
would
then,
that have been your first choice?
No.
Okay.
Come on, guys. Don't make me hate on chiropractors. These guys are my buddies. They're still my mentors.
One of my best buddies is a chiropractor. I have nothing against chiropractic.
There's some weird stuff. I saw a chiropractor because I was having some back pain with running, and he had me hold my hand out, and he like asked my tailbone if it wanted to be adjusted, and if my hand moved, it meant yes. And I was just like, no freaking way. I was out of there. So just there's a little bit more weirdness. Like PT has its problems as well, but like there seems to be a wider net for weirdness in the chiropractic world. Much love to my chiro friends.
So the answer to the question was no, you didn't want to go to chiro school.
Yeah, I guess I took a long way to say that.
All right, fine. So you wanted to go to what made you decide you wanted to be a PT?
I really enjoyed working in that rehab setting. I had experience previously within the medical setting. And so I kind of had an idea that I wanted to do something in medicine. Mm-hmm. And then I've always been really interested in exercise. And so PT, after thinking a lot about it, and I went kind of back and forth between that and athletic trainer, it just seemed like a good goal to set on. So I just decided to see if I could do it.
Yeah. And now you get to do both.
Yeah.
currently strength coaching, and in PT school, you're in your second year?
Yes. Yeah. Wrapping up.
University of Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm.
I said it wrong. I blew it.
Yeah.
Boomer Sooner.
There you go. Yeah.
Right? There you go.
Don't mess that up if you come visit.
I know, exactly. I'm from Brooklyn, so
we messes everything up.
So you currently have a strength training, a strength coaching practice, and it's entirely online?
Yes. So I went completely virtual when I started PT school, just for the sake of time management.
Yep.
And so I was already running that business through PT school, and then COVID hit. And at the same time, I did my first clinical rotation, and it was at a nonprofit during COVID. And so there were all of these, it was all one-on-one with patients. And so it was like an hour with the patients, and it was one-on-one. And I had my first existential crisis when I realized like that job does not exist for me in my city, really. Like, I don't think this nonprofit clinic is hiring. And so I decided to take that strength coaching business and scale it up. I was able to double my clientele throughout 2020. And it seems to be going pretty well. And I think that the model, I'm going to continue using it through rehab. What I do is there's no live sessions. I do an hour-long interview with everybody that I meet. And so I have a list of questions for them, and then we set all their goals, and then we talk about where they're exercising and what their schedule is and what their barriers are and all of that stuff. And then I have some, ways that they can record some stuff for me. So I want to like look at their overhead squat, and I want to look at their single leg stance and some stuff like that. And then kind of based on their goals and whatever they're working with, like maybe they have some low back pain, that's secondary as well. We will start on a program, and we'll start slow and kind of figure out some baselines, like looking at, like how strong they are in certain lifts and stuff like that, and then progress them up.
You said you don't do any live sessions.
Nope.
Everything is recorded. How do you, so you see their recordings, mm-hmm. right? They record themselves either in the gym or at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And they have a tutorial video. So I've gone through and created a whole library not of me because I talk too much, obviously, but like stuff I've pulled off of YouTube. And so literally every exercise, there's a couple that I've had to invent myself and like record those, but I have a whole YouTube library. And so if somebody wants to learn how to do a Nordic hamstring curl, like I have a video for that. Great. And then they take the video and they send it to me. So it's a slower motor learning experience, but it tends to be really efficient for my time, and it means that I can keep my costs more affordable.
For sure. Adrian, you know anyone else doing something like that?
Well, that's why I thought Katie was a great person to get on the show. No, I really don't. I think I know people who do virtual kind of sessions and they kind of check in all the time, but the fact that it's very kind of automated is what I kind of want to learn more about, where Katie thought about it, like where do you see it going? But I can't, like off the top of my head, that's why I was so intrigued, because I really can't tell you somebody.
There are definitely some programs out there, more rehab oriented, as far as I know. They're also, backed by private equity, and they're highly developed. You seem to have like DIY'd it yourself. I mean, you put this together on your own. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I use a program
the model called, and the library and everything else you're doing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I use a program called True Coach. Other rehab professionals do use that sometimes. Like I know Morgan Neese has said that she uses that. And then I use G Suite for outcome measures and stuff like that, but just kind of put it together. I'm looking at Jane to make that switch eventually, but I love True Coach.
Can you tell us about Jane? I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay, well, this sounds crazy, but the other thing that I'm doing is I'm opening a business incubator in May for cash-based professionals in my community. So I have a super small studio space that allows for private rehab or coaching. And so I need a way to schedule, and I'm hoping to be able to offer some amenities for other rehab clinicians. And so Jane seems to be what I'm looking for, where it has everybody can view the schedule and reserve their time. And then also each clinician under their own LLC, their own EIN, they will be able to use the Jane account and do their charting. And then when they're ready to go off on their own and do their own business, it's very easy to transfer that info from the account into their new Jane account, or just like download it into, I think they do an Excel, and you can put that up into whatever charting software you decide to use. But I haven't signed it yet, but I have asked them a bajillion questions. The customer service has been awesome. And so that's something that I'm potentially looking for, but I'm not sure what their HEP software looks like. I might end up sticking with True Coach.
Why an incubator? Like, where did that come from, and how did you decide to go that route, as opposed to like start a business or a practice where people are either working for you or working independently underneath you in some sort? I mean, I like it, but where'd that come from for you?
My husband owns a small building from when he was a record store owner 10 years ago. And we had a tattoo artist in the space who decided to renovate the space instead of paying his rent. And so we ended up losing him. And I was like, hey, like this space is in an extremely coveted part of town, but it's only 600 square feet. I'm going to do something with it. And so the space is only big enough for really one clinician at a time, like maybe two. It has a private exam room. So if I have a pelvic floor therapist that wants to use it for even more privacy, they can. But otherwise, like it's a bunch of windows, but you can't really see in. It's all like a completely private gym space. And it'll be more strength and conditioning oriented, but I am trying to get a lot of clinicians in there. I'll have some neuro tools and stuff like that.
Just a rotation of therapists, clinicians, whatever, pay by the hour kind of thing?
It'll be a membership model. So it'll be, like a X amount a month. Jane also offers telehealth options too. And so I can extend that amenity. And so we'll see how quickly it fills up. I'd like to to purchase another commercial property next year after graduating if the model works. But I kind of like the idea of facilitating entrepreneurship in my city. I have a lot of friends who are physical therapists who, have always talked about, I have one friend in particular who's talked about the entire time I've known him, like 3 or 4 years, like I want to go out on my own eventually. I want to go out on my own. And he's harnessed to a hospital right now, trying to get his loans paid off. And so like, I was thinking about this friend specifically where like, it would be cool if he had a place to train in the evenings or on the weekends, just something kind of part-time, work on his side gig while he spends his last 5 years at the hospital.
That's right.
Right. So a question, where's the incubator come in? Because usually with incubator, you get resources besides space. You get mentoring, you get, some tools, some tech, some software. So like at the incubator, is it just the network that you think will happen organically, or are you going to offer some coaching, or are they going to be able to use Jane themselves, the full features, or is there something else that you're going to offer for the incubator?
Yeah,
just space?
They'll be able to use Jane themselves. And so I plan on including that as part of the membership. They don't have to pay for that. And then I also have a decent network in Tulsa and social media following. I have like a women's fitness group that I run in Tulsa, like a Facebook group. And so ideally, I would love to be able to pass off more clients and patients to the people within my network than loading my plate up right now. I'm pretty much full.
So when do you graduate from PT school?
Next May.
Okay, in a year. Do you see your practice changing once you have a PT license?
I think that I will be more likely to do my exam and interviews in person, but I really would like to continue with the model that I have now. I think it works really well for higher level patients. My least favorite example is that my friend has waited until this recent stimulus to get her non-specific knee pain that's been on and off for the last 3 years taken care of in PT. She works for a hospital, by the way. So she has health insurance. She just can't afford physical therapy. So she's spending that entire $1,400 on physical therapy. And it's something that like,
what do you mean by that? Like the copay is too high, or
yeah, it's $80
PT's
a
not
session.
Covered, or $80 a session.
It's $80 a session. Mm-hmm. And so she had to wait. She could not afford physical therapy. She's an active person. She loves hiking, and it was really holding her back. And that just made me really angry. And so I've been trying to think about some ways where we can kind of circumvent the insurance system. We also have a big problem with uninsured people here in Oklahoma. Right. A lot of millennials are kind of missing out. And so I would love to think of some ways where those people who they have to be pretty self-motivated, like it's not going to work with the diabetic who's recovering from a foot amputation and has never exercised before and isn't really interested, but doctor sent them in. But if you have a young person who has had chronic low back pain and doesn't have insurance because they're self-employed, I would love to be able to reach that target audience and keep it affordable for them.
How are you doing that? Like, what makes your service more affordable than going to a PT?
Well, so currently,
and how do you make a living at
right.
the same time?
Currently for coaching, I charge $199 a month, and that's unlimited workouts. Mm-hmm. And I would say I spend probably 30 minutes, maybe an hour top on each client, if that. I think it's more like 20 to 30 minutes a week. Mm-hmm. And so you can see that I don't have to spend a lot of time doing this. Like I do keep their workouts very individualized. I think through what their workouts are going to look like, but it doesn't take me very long. I've been doing this for quite a while. And so I really just have to spend 10 or 15 minutes a day going through my entire client list and just seeing like, oh, so-and-so's doing okay. Oh, haven't heard from so-and-so in a while. I need to text them, and just going through that list. And so it's not time consuming versus the live one-on-one care that we have become so accustomed to, which is ironic because that's what I said. That's why I said I wanted to start my own business. Right. And now I'm wanting to eliminate that.
Yeah. Do you think, this model is, it's definitely something that Adrian and I have talked about, different versions of this. Do you think this is something that other PTs could do? Because you clearly have a very deep grasp of it. You developed it yourself. You wrapped your head around it, and you you can tweak it where and when you want. Could you teach others to do it, or do you think that there's potential for other people to pick up a similar model on their own?
Yeah, I definitely think so. This is a common model in personal training. Like there's entire Facebook groups devoted and books written about this. And so I think the model is extremely applicable to physical therapy. It just, like we have the overarching problem of like difficulty properly loading patients and stuff like that. And so then you have to kind of think about that and like think about your exercise dosage when you're not able to watch the person live and stuff like that. And so I think it takes a certain kind of PT. I think you guys would be amazing at it. You guys would rock it, but some people might have a harder time not being able to see the person or interact in a live setting.
Yeah, I think the bigger problem is that PTs, we in general think of ourselves in a rehabilitative way, and that everything we do has to be about getting better, or recovering from something. Where PTs are very well equipped to be wellness coaches. To a lot of PTs that may sound below us, but the reality is that we're perfectly situated and educated to help people live better lives. And it may or may not be the same population that you're referring to, but at the same time, it's really the mindset, like the business or practice mindset of we should be like, everybody should have a PT. Everybody should have a PT subscription. At least that's how I see it. A monthly $200 a month, and you can access that PT in similar way that you're saying. I think that makes a lot of sense in a lot of populations.
Yeah, that's definitely my goal. And I'm trying to hit the people who finish PT after a knee replacement, but they want to, like start rock climbing, or they want to return to golf after 20 years.
Sure.
Insurance usually doesn't cover that.
Nope.
And so I would love to be able to kind of pick up that population. In addition, most of the underserved populations are kind of where I'm trying to weasel my way in.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, we spoke with Jerry Durham, who talked a lot about the initial contact with the patient. He loves talking about that and setting the expectations and starting the conversation in the right direction. How do you start your conversation with a new client or someone who calls you or texts you, out of the blue?
I try to get them into a video chat as quickly as possible, and I set aside an entire hour. And then I also am like very bad at faking it. And so I have someone right now where he's like, well, my doctor thinks that I have shoulder impingement. And I'm like, well, we don't really know what that is. Like, here's what it's meant to be, but like sometimes people don't have pain with that. And like, I would love to be able to tell you that there's something wrong with you and I can fix it, but I don't know if there's anything wrong with you. So like, sorry, this isn't a helpful answer. And that's just kind of my brand, is I just try to be as honest as possible and just be like, hey, like, I love to read, like, here's what I know about this subject, and I can try to impart that to you, but I'm not gonna fake it and pretend like I know all the answers. Like we can work on it through it together, which I wish we had more of that attitude in medicine in general, like raise your hand if you've seen a psychiatrist and gotten prescribed something that was like completely not appropriate for you. And the person like didn't want to back down or admit that, maybe they made a mistake.
So what you're telling us is that you don't tell them the price first within the first 10 seconds.
I'm pretty upfront about the
No,
price.
I'm kidding, because that's what, she's going to say what Jerry was saying. Is like, patient comes in, I have a problem with my shoulder. It's like, ask about the shoulder, ask about what their goals are.
Not what their insurance is.
Not what their insurance is.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's kind of the point, right?
Right.
Do you, did you ever get pushback? So meaning like you're asking somebody, clearly they're calling you for you. Does anyone else work for you? Like any other trainers or coaches work for you?
I have
people call and they know that they're calling for Katie.
They know that they're calling for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have one trainer who is under her own separate business, but she's someone that I refer to for weight loss. The only pushback I ever get is when someone is looking for in-person training, in which case I just refer out. I have a referral network. I have several people that I refer to for that.
Right. Do you ever try to explain to them how effective you can be remotely, or is that not a conversation that you're interested in engaging in?
Oh, I always explain that, but I think that I'm specifically targeting a certain niche of people. And if you don't fit in that niche, then we shouldn't work together.
Yeah. It definitely should be understood that this is what they're getting. And how do you explain how effective you can be remotely? Like what's your spiel?
I definitely work really well with working parents as a working parent myself, and just other busy adults. And so I completely understand how difficult it is to get exercise in. And so what if instead of trying to force your life to revolve around this brand new fitness routine, I mostly work with beginners. Like instead of trying to force your life into this square, whatever analogy I'm trying to say. I'm going to skip that part.
I got you.
Yeah. And so, like what if we just made your fitness routine work for you? And so I can say I have the capability to build these templates in TrueCoach. I never use them. So I have one person who is working at home. He hates working out at home, but he's doing it. He's working at home and working out at home. And so we say, hey, like, what if you just do like 8 sets of squats on Monday and 8 sets of push-ups on Tuesday, and, like, we'll meet you where you're at. Or I have someone who is like having a mental health crisis right now. And it's like, hey, like, you don't have to lift right now. Like, here's some mobility work for you. Like, here's a breathing exercise and stuff like that. Yeah. And then like, let's scale back up. I'm going to check in with you in a couple of days and we'll scale back up when you're ready. So that's the kind of flexibility that I offer. I think that if you're the kind of person who needs me to stand over you and just make you work out, I'm probably not the best fit. Like I will text you if you miss a couple workouts. But a lot of people need that in-person contact. They need that appointment in their calendar, and I can't offer them that.
Right. Does your software track utilization?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it tracks compliance, and then it has an interesting metric feature too, where this is better with, I use it more with like cardio type stuff. Like I'm not a running coach or anything like that, but say I have someone who's like, well, I want to use my Peloton more. And so I say, okay, like we have a 40-mile goal this week. So here's your metrics for that. And you can track how many miles you've been doing and make sure you hit your weekly goal.
That's awesome. You have them set that in? Is it in your system or it's, well, yeah, I guess so, right?
How does it connect?
Do they interact and do they see that as well on their side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What system is this?
So it's all within TrueCoach. And so
gotcha.
Yeah,
and TrueCoach is a strength training or trainers app.
It is. Yeah, technically it is not HIPAA compliant. I asked a lawyer about this, and I think that if I can get the right waiver, then it should be okay to continue to use with rehab. And I do, like I said, I do know other clinicians who have been using this for HEP, but it really is completely customizable to any exercise. Like I have quad sets in my library. I have piriformis stretches in my library.
Yep. I think you need a BA, a business associate agreement.
Mm-hmm.
That basically leaves indemnity for any liability or whatever. Mm-hmm. So because you practice remotely, right? Or everything you do is remote, and you have to adapt to what your clients have, like the equipment that they have. If it is equipment, are most of your programs body weight based, or do most of your clients have, and I know it's probably a little bit of each, they have their own equipment? And do you ever like wish you just had a squat rack that you could pull out of your pocket and, have them use or something like that?
No. I had so much fun when all the gyms shut down, because I had to get extremely creative, both with my workouts and with my clients. And so like, yeah, if you have a squat rack, that is dope. I love the barbell, but like you can get hella strong just at home with whatever you have. And my clients are so creative. I love this. So my favorites have been, one of them used a economy size bottle of gin in a bag as her weight. Someone has used, lots of people use
Adrian,
kids.
You like that one, huh?
Yeah. Lots of people use kids. I have a bowling ball in a case. My favorite from this last month was a bag of drones. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about, Patrick? But yeah, he has like a bag of drones laying around his house. And that's what he's been using. Yeah, that's what he's been using as his weight. And so, it's a fun way to be really, really creative. And that's what I really like about it.
Well, that's cool. I asked somebody, this was a conversation with a workers' comp case manager, and we were talking about possibly doing contracting with them and possibly doing FCEs with them. And they're like, how are you going to do FCEs? You need the whole kit. I'm like, Are you kidding? Like I need that kit to be able to see if someone can lift something from the ground overhead. Everybody has something, right? And the weight may not. Well, bowling ball's perfect. You know exactly what weight it is. Very good. Have you ever gotten stuck? Like can't figure it out, no idea what to do?
I would say back is a little bit harder to train,
Sure.
like you can only do so many row variations. So we do like a lot of rows and reverse flies. But we make it work. So no, I don't feel like I've gotten stuck. Now I'm like paranoid. Am I stuck? I don't know. No, I don't think I'm stuck.
I have a question for you. What is the trend in your metrics? Like maybe it was something you could look into or you have now, but like what's the biggest indicator of drop-offs or lack of compliance? Have you had any kind of ideas of is it they have more than 4 kids? Is it that they work a 10-hour day? Is it that they have too much equipment? Like, have you seen any kind of correlations that you'd be like, whoa, this is an interesting metric?
This is such an amazing question. I'm going to have to think about it for a second. I can say, being in your second trimester pregnant with twins definitely appears to result in a drop-off.
Winner, right?
Yeah. And then it's people it's working parents that do have the hardest time. And so it can be kind of person dependent for sure, but it's especially people who are working in a really busy environment. Like for us, like we're all sitting here right now, right? Like we could be on a spin bike right now. And so I've been able to kind of fit my exercise routine into my job. Whereas if I have someone who's a restaurant manager, like they're on their feet all day, they're not doing push-ups on a restaurant floor, and then they get home and they need to make dinner for their kids. And so that's where we have the most struggle. And so we just try to work around it. Like there's no such thing as too little exercise beyond 0. Like if you do 10 body weight squats for the day, that's awesome. That's a win.
You're not being creative enough, Katie. That man needs to be doing push-ups on the bar.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get more tips, like help with his income and her income.
Come on. All right. Adrian, do you have any more questions for Katie?
No, that was my big one. I think I know, Katie and I spoke on the phone when we first met, internet meeting. And, it'd be really interesting because I think you have it's novel in the DIY sense. I think it's novel, to be honest. And then when you get into the PT world, I think they're going to, people are going to probably want to copy what you're doing for sure. But I'd be interested to kind of see why people fall off and why people, they're at home, they have true coach. They can kind of track themselves. Like what are some, determinants that show poor compliance or quick improvement from your, because you have a lot of metrics. You have people that call you, they set up appointments. You have a 1 hour long, you're probably recording it. You're also getting time of day when they work out, I'm assuming, the type of library they have. Like, what are the top 10 exercises that you use? Like you might be surprised that you don't use 80% of your exercises on TrueCoach, So that to me would be like, oh, in your demographic, in your area, you can pull that and say, wow, a lot of people suffer from this condition. A lot of people improve using these 4 exercises. Like maybe there's something in the dirt in Oklahoma that is giving these conditions, So that's something I'm very curious about. That I'm sure anecdotally you have it, like your brain's probably processing it, but it'd be really interesting to see it on paper and see what kind of determinants or metrics you have currently that you might not even think about, or even collecting further down. You like job, like, yeah, they're a restaurant worker, but there's somebody who works at a restaurant bar versus at a takeout only place versus maybe even type of cuisine, is it quicker pace, slower pace? No, I'm serious. Like a white tabletop restaurant versus a Joe's Bar and Grill.
Circus clowns. I'm having a really hard time.
You got to work on that.
Yeah,
you need it.
But I think it's difficult for me to answer that question because my pitch is that you should only be with me for 3 months. So I love middle-aged sedentary adults. Oh my God, I love you so much. And I want to take my passion and instill it in you. And then I want you to go out on your own and have this lifelong habit, right? Like, so I'm a health education major. I have done a lot of coaching courses on behavior change. I'm not an expert, but I try my damnedest. And so for me, it's kind of the goal to get them to graduate. And so I think that's why it's difficult for me to find these metrics. Like, I have a few clients that have been with me forever because they don't want to think about programming and they have disposable income. But again, we're talking about, my ideal clientele is the person who's like, well, I can only afford 3 months of coaching. And then, so I had one of my favorites is she was looking at bilateral knee replacements. She needed to lose 100 pounds. We did 2 months together and she is now hiking every day. She just did 4 miles with a 20-pound backpack. Like, I don't care that she's not strength training anymore. I love that she's found an exercise that makes her happy and that she is now physically able to do. She lost a ton of weight. And so that's why I have a difficult time. Well,
that's my point.
You gave her the on-ramp.
That's my point is like, I would like that to me is a success, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about is that it's not a longitudinal long term. I'm talking about like the people who are successful. Compliance to me means if you tell them 2 months, they do 2 months. If you tell them 1 month, they do 1 month. That's compliance to me. Plus the success is that they got back to hiking after a knee replacement. So that's where like even that person's a case of like, how many more of those cases do you have? And is there like a thread that connects all of them? I'd be curious to see gender, is it age, is it occupation, is it number of kids, is it home versus apartment, rent versus own, like I feel like there's like
I love that
plenty of stuff,
So I was kind of alluding to this before. Do you have any aspirations to scale this, to employ other people, to train people to do what you do and how you do it?
I'm definitely considering it. Again, like I had been more interested in just doing this from a mentorship perspective. I'm married. My husband is a neuroscientist. And so like I am stop it, Adrian. Sorry, this is a podcast. You can't see Adrian's face. So like I'm in a position where, like making 6 figures isn't something that I have to do. Like, yes, I need to put my kids through college. Yes, I have literally a bajillion dollars in student loans, but I feel maybe I'm still too young, but I feel really called to serve my community. That's what I want to do.
And I have no problem with that. And I think that the way you're doing it is the right way to do it. My thought though, is that what you've come up with is something that a lot of other PTs should be doing. That's how I look at it.
And that's what I'm trying to pitch to the people who do come under my umbrella. And I kind of avoided your question. Yes, I do intend to take on probably independent contractors, probably more that model than employees. Okay. But I don't know. I'm just winging it, honestly. Like totally. I've said yes and to everything in my life, and it got me here on this podcast. So. And
you don't have to be. I mean, in my mind, you don't. And by the way, huge accomplishment. Getting on this podcast.
Yeah, I know.
you don't have to, it doesn't have to be your business. I mean, I'm even thinking like, is this something you want to share with a lot of people? So in like the form of a continuing ed class or even recording, a self-taught, self-led course or something to that effect. I don't know. My mind is always thinking about how do we make a business out of this, but no pressure. As you said, you're really happy with what it is right now. And if that's what it is, it's what it is. Somebody's going to pick it up. Someone's going to do this, because I think you've come upon something that's innovative, and it's not like earth shattering, but it's innovative, and you're adding access. You're increasing the ability for people who don't have access to care to get the care that they need. And that's amazing.
Yeah. It's difficult for me to say because I would say a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, like I had no intention of remaining self-employed. And so, wherever the universe takes me, absolutely. Yeah. I love your suggestion. I'm going to add that to my list. I have PhD on my list too. I have so many things on my list that I want to do. So I'm going to put it on there.
A more short-term question is, and I guess a year from now when you graduate from PT school, you're just going to keep going with what you're doing?
Yeah.
You're not going to take a job with somebody else, right?
No way.
That's awesome. That in itself, it is, because everyone else in your class is looking for their first boss.
They are. Yeah. And it's so funny. Like we have to do like submit our resume for a class and stuff like that. And like, I'm just like, well, here's my resume. Like I don't really have a cover letter because I'm just going to be self-employed. And I get back on it like, well, like make sure that it's okay with your employer that you have this side gig. And I'm like, no, that's not what I meant at all. Like I'm never working for anyone again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your resume reads line 1, owner of Cultivate Strength.
Yeah.
That's it.
Adrian, did anyone, and
Blank.
How long ago did you graduate from PT school, Adrian?
12 years.
12 years. Did anyone in your class go into business for themselves right out of school?
No,
I don't think one person in my class did.
It was really only like who had the best CI and the best clinical and who got the job offer from that clinical. Right. And it was almost every time a mill, except for one person got a really cool job in the residency. A hospital system that had a residency. But I couldn't tell you of anybody that leaving had started their own business, you know? And I remember we actually had a class where 2 graduates were like 5 years into their business. Well, one of them came and he was at the time, he was 35 and he was like, you know, I started when I was 27. I wish I'd done it sooner, but like, it didn't hit, like it never at any point hit that many of us to start your own business. I don't think it was even like a thought. It was like, I want to find the best boss and the best clinic and not get into a mill, but I think 50% got into a mill. And so, that was, the rest was history.
Okay, you definitely
good tweet about this where, you know, someone said that in PT school, we're taught to be excellent employees, but we're not taught how to be entrepreneurs, right?
Or autonomous. We're told to be autonomous. We're actually not taught how to be autonomous.
That's right. And look, you definitely, you broke the mold and you went after it, you know, just by starting a coaching practice.
I'm not going to mute because that's music in the background is awesome as you talk.
Okay. That's my background music. You know, I don't know that everybody else has the ambition to do that or the know-how or the ability, but I mean, you know, you make it sound pretty simple. You know, meaning it's the model is not that complicated, right?
It's not. And
especially now. I
think what happened, I mean, like people in my class are like 24. I'm a woman in my 30s.
That's
like
a big difference too.
This is not even my second career. And so for me, it's just kind of like, well, you know, I'm just going to figure it out. I actually have like some really pressing financial things that I need to take care of. And so I'm just going to do it.
Yep.
Some people still live with their parents that are in my class. I can't wrap my head around it. Yeah. I love them. They're wonderful people, but like, they haven't lived alone.
I guess necessity is the mother of invention and you figured it out. So congratulations. That's great.
I would definitely suggest that you find a way to scale, not monetarily, but scale the component, because there's people who are in Texas and Arkansas and New York City that need something like what you're doing for their community. So if you can scale it on that level, you can reach out way more disgruntled PTs and way more patients that can't get access. So something to kind of think about. You know, I know you're early on and stuff like that, but just something kind of with your PhD, you can kind of keep that in the back of your head.
Adrian's running his own incubator.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It already. Yeah, right. Exactly. Katie Ford Incubators.
So Katie, as we wrap up, one thing we'd like to do is ask if you have any questions for us.
Yes. Instead of preparing for this podcast, I just Googled you guys obsessively. So I already know your answer, no. Dan. I was wondering, Dan, other than Tim Ferriss,
I'm so nervous.
What is, I love to read. So what has been, both of you, a book that has been most influential in your life, or even not even your career as a PT? Like, what's your favorite book, I guess?
I'll give you a couple. First of all, I always revert back to Siddhartha, because life is a journey. And, I'm inherently not a calm person. So reading that book calms me. And I need that in my life occasionally. And on the business side, I read the book by Peter Thiel called 0 to 1. 0 to 1. It's about starting a business. And it's really, I think, and, none of us, I don't think, none of us have MBAs and we're not in the business space, but it's a great entry into the business space, and really is, it's one of these books that's like, it was written 10 years ago, maybe, and it's a classic for anyone starting a business.
Nice. I'll have to read that.
0 to 1. Thanks. Great question. Adrian.
What was the question? I have the same question.
You get the same question?
What? Yeah. What's your book? What's your book?
Gee, I thought I was special. My favorite book.
You want to know your book?
You are to me.
So my favorite book that changed my life was Mastery by Robert Greene. I think that was I always knew I wanted to combine two different, film wasn't really a passion, to be honest. Like but what that book taught me was a bunch of different cases of people in history, famous people, Da Vinci and, fighter pilots and MIT scholars who were pro tennis players before, that most of the successful people that we read about in history books are people that had two different kind of careers and they kind of merged them. And so that book kind of gave me I think they gave me the confidence to, even to this day, when I get told, no, you'll never be this or that, or in PT school, people tell me, what are you, nuts? And so that was the one that kind of said, okay, if they did it, I can do it too. And also this guy's writing about it. He's a very famous writer. So let me put my head down and just focus and get it done. So yeah, Mastery by Robert Greene. And at the time, 50 Cent was hot. So 50 Cent apparently read it. And I was like,
yeah.
Okay, I got to read it because 50 Cent wrote it. I read it. So yeah, that was the book that really kind of changed. And then the other book was Made to Stick. When there was a part by the Heath brothers, I think it's the Heath brothers,
yep, that's right,
where it talks about get to the heart. And that's why all the stuff I do, the show is relatable. That's why I use pop culture a lot. And I kind of make sure that I can connect with every bit in person. Heartstrings is really what the goal is. So yeah, those are the top, but Robert Greene was a big one that really got me to being like, I know what I want to do. Like,
All right, Katie, back to you.
Oh, okay. I feel like I have a lot. So I love habit formation. I think that is the secret to success. Motivation is bullshit. You run out of motivation within the first few weeks. You got to make a habit. So if you want a hard book, Richard Thaler's Nudge, which does not super relate to the healthcare industry, but it's a book about behavioral economics, and it's just about making, the right choices easier. That's a great book. And then Atomic Habits by James Clear is a much easier and more fun read that pretty much says the same thing. That's one of those books that I would just love to gift to everyone. And then,
can I cut you off for a sec? Sorry to interrupt, but Atomic Habits, that book has come up on my suggested book list on Amazon for at least 5 years. And I keep resisting it. You got it.
It was at
you
PPS.
Just gave me the impetus.
It was at PPS. I think he gave a keynote.
Who's the author?
James Cleary.
Okay.
Were you there? Dan Seidler?
When and where?
Private practice section, October 2020.
2020. Yeah, I was here.
Oh, yeah. He spoke at private practice section, I'm pretty sure. Or
yeah. I know who you're talking about. Mm-hmm. What's the name? Cleary?
Yep.
James Clear. He has a great email list too.
I cut you off. You got more. Let's go.
My last book is really obscure. I got into PT school and we were learning all of these special tests for the shoulder and the knee, and they had awful validity. And I was like, what the hell are we doing? And so I was like, did I pick the wrong career? And I read Care and Cure by Jacob. I'm going to botch this. Jacob Stenega, I think. And it's kind of like a philosophy of science book that heavily emphasizes medicine. And he just lays out why none of us know what we're doing. And it's just kind of, it applies to the entire medical community and probably to just every career ever. And so it was just really nice to know that I wasn't the only one who felt like an idiot.
For sure.
Oh, it was 3 books?
Yeah.
It was, I did say 3 books.
Oh, so but last one, I don't have to say anything about it, but 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, that's my favorite too. That was
much. But yeah, that was my
4, Katie. Sorry.
I have 1 million.
That's great. I've been hearing a lot of this with COVID, that science is a work in progress. I mean, we don't know everything, and we're learning as we go. So a new disease comes along and we take our previous information that we have and our previous strategies and tactics and apply them to that. They don't always work. Mm-hmm. So we're learning as we go. And I think that's probably what you're getting at. And the fact that we also make mistakes. I mean, I saw a really a highly acclaimed epidemiologist did a whole thread on Twitter the other night on the mistakes that she made, like specifically called herself out on where, well, she pointed out the things where she was really right, where other people were wrong, but she also said the opposite, the mistakes that she made, and she's learning, very few people, I know very few people will actually like put themselves out there like that. So I thought it was really cool.
That's what I've been trying to do, is to just lean into being wrong. Like, how awesome is it to be wrong? Like, that means you learn something, like if I'm right all the time, I'm probably not learning a lot. So I try to look for more ways to be wrong. I always try to think like, what's my bias? Why do I feel the way that I do? And just, how am I fucking this up?
Awesome. That's how you're going to grow. Pretty good. You sound like Adrian's boy, Gary V. Gary
Introduce me.
Oh, Gary Vaynerchuk. He also wrote a couple of great books. Adrian?
Yes. I couldn't tell you the names of it anymore.
Come on.
No idea. Oh
my God. Oh, I can't remember.
Like I couldn't tell you.
I plug this guy too much on this podcast, but I'll say it anyway.
You do.
It's Gary V, at Gary V on Twitter, GaryVee.
Watch him on YouTube. He's more exciting.
But I mean, like, that's your in. You'll find him there. And then Gary Vaynerchuk, and he owns Vaynerchuk Media, and this guy is just in touch with how things are operating in our modern world. And I give him a lot of credit. He's a dude from New Jersey whose parents used to own a wine shop, and he created wineshop.com and just went bananas from there. And he has 1,000 other things going on right now. Yeah. Anyway, anything else you would like to add, Katie? How can we reach you? How can people reach you?
I'm super active on social media. So my Instagram is cultivate.strength.tulsa. And then I'm really friendly on my personal Facebook page, Katie Ford. And then I have a business page to Cultivate Strength. I'm extremely stressed out right now, so I don't have anything very interesting to say on my business page, but I got some dank memes on my personal page.
All right, check them out. Check out Katie's dank memes. And Adrian, anything else you'd like to add today?
I'm really excited that we got a student on the podcast, and I think it's should be very motivating to you're cultivating other people to think you're the way that you're thinking. I think it's I'm excited for you.
I agree. Students and current PTs and other people who are looking to do something interesting with their career and autonomous with their career. And there's, I've said it since I became PT that there's the possibilities are infinite. Once you have that, once you are a PT, I mean, you're proving it before you're even a PT. You're doing things in the healthcare strength and function space, and it's all about human ability and things like that. But the reality is that a lot of some people just kind of close their mind a little bit, and I really appreciate when I meet somebody who has an open mind and innovative mind and really goes after what they want. So,
you know what? I do have one thing to add. I score incredibly high on the neurotic scale. I've been through.
Is that a pro or a con?
I think in my case it's a pro. I've decided to lean into mental illness. It gets me out of a lot of social events. But so I had this amazing therapist, and she would always say, like, hey, when you're anxious about something, like, what's the worst thing that will happen? And it's turned into my favorite game, where, like, what is the worst thing that happens if I don't get a job right out of PT school and I work for myself? Like, well, I missed some student loan payments, possibly declare bankruptcy after I take out this loan for my business, but I'm not dead, And so I've continued to play that game. And then another thing that I heard on a podcast, I don't remember which one, but the guy was saying, I've signed up to run a marathon. And the other host was like, that's so awesome. And he's like, yeah, I don't know how to swim, but the marathon is in 4 months and I'm going to learn how to swim. Like, for him, the worst thing is dying. Like, he could literally die in this marathon. And so
I think you mean triathlon, just to clarify. Right?
Oh yeah, it was a triathlon. Sorry. Yeah, no, it was a triathlon, but I don't know. So for me, that's the favorite game that I try to teach everyone that I talk to. I try to teach it to all my clients. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And if the answer isn't like permanent derangement or death, like, go for it.
Great attitude, great approach to life, for real. I mean, you're laughing as if I'm joking around. That's too many people take life too seriously, right? Yeah,
I mean, I could die young, but I'll have fun doing it. No, that's not good. Don't end the show with that. Cut that out.
You're gonna do it, having fun. This has been a great conversation, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. Keep in touch and let us know how your student career is going and when you're graduating and all that. And Adrian will be at the graduation.
You're excited. Yep. Come to
at least
Tulsa.
a cardboard cutout will be there. Yeah, at least
everything in Tiger King is real. So come to Tulsa and check it out.
Sweet. Oh, we didn't even get into that. Maybe next time.
Yeah.
All right, Katie.
All right. Bye.
Great chatting.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
See you guys.
We hope you learned some things to help you connect with your musculoskeletal system and more. Find us on Twitter at dseidler, that's DSEIDLER, and at Adrian MPT, ADRIAN MPT, and on LinkedIn, Daniel Seidler and Adrian Miranda. We'll connect with you again next time.